Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
What's up, Phillies Nation? Kevin Felicia here, and you need to buckle up right now because the internet is absolutely losing its mind over what might be the biggest move in Philadelphia baseball since the Bryce Harper signing. Saying this loud and clear for everyone frantically refreshing their Twitter feeds and Reddit threads right now. As of December 20th, 2025, Bo Bichette is still a free agent. The deal isn't done. There's no signature on any contract. No press conference has been scheduled. The champagne isn't flowing in the executive offices, and Dave Dombrowski hasn't walked out to the podium with a custom Phillies jersey with Bichette's name on the back. The ink is not dry on anything, and anyone telling you otherwise is either misinformed, chasing engagement metrics, or both. This is the integrity you've come to, and I'm not about to compromise that just to get clicks. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. Just because the deal isn't signed doesn't mean we're dealing with smoke and mirrors here. In fact, my sources inside the organization are telling me that while nothing is official, the mutual interest between the Philadelphia Phillies and Bo Bichette is not only real, it's intense, and it's escalating at a pace that has insiders buzzing like I haven't seen in years. We're talking about serious, high-level engagement from Dave Dombrowski and the front office brass to bring the former Toronto Blue Jays star to Philadelphia. This isn't a courtesy meeting or a leverage play. This is legitimate, aggressive pursuit of one of the most talented bats available on the open market. Let's talk about who Bo Bichette actually is, because if you've been sleeping on this guy or you're only casually familiar with American League Baseball, you need to understand what kind of player payday or a risky reclamation project. This is a proven elite-level talent who, despite some defensive questions, is arguably the highest ceiling position player bat still available in free agency right now. Now, here's where this story takes a turn that nobody saw coming 48 hours ago, and it's the development that has completely changed the entire calculus of these negotiations. The biggest obstacle to signing Bo Bichette has always been, so for weeks, maybe months, the idea of Bichette to Philadelphia seemed like a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. The talent was undeniable, but the logistics seemed impossible until now. The breaking development that I'm bringing you today, confirmed through multiple sources with direct knowledge of the negotiations, is that Bo Bichette has signaled his willingness to move off shortstop and play second base for the Philadelphia Phillies. Read that again and let it sink in. Bichette, a career shortstop, is willing to change positions to make this work. That tactical flexibility is the key that unlocks this entire potential blockbuster deal. It's the domino that makes everything else fall into place. Suddenly, what seemed like an impossible fit becomes not just possible, but potentially one of the most devastating offensive additions in recent franchise history. But let's pump the brakes for a second, because this is where things get complicated and the landscape we're dealing with is absolutely treacherous. The Phillies are not bidding against themselves in some vacuum. This isn't a situation where Bichette is sitting by the phone waiting for Philadelphia to call with an offer. We are in a legitimate multi-team bidding war, and the competition is fierce. The New York Yankees, desperate to add contact hitting and consistency to their lineup after watching their offense sputter in crucial moments, are heavily involved in these negotiations. The Cleveland Guardians, who are tantalizingly close to contention and looking for that one final piece to push them over the edge, are also right there in the mix. And let's be brutally honest about what we're up against. The Yankees have the financial firepower to make this extremely uncomfortable for every other team involved. They can throw money around in ways that make even the Phillies' aggressive spending look conservative. However, and this is crucial, the Phillies have leverage points that go beyond just the size of the contract offer. Philadelphia has established a legitimate winning culture over the past few seasons. This isn't some rebuilding team asking a star player to come suffer through development years. The Phillies have been to the World Series. They have Bryce Harper. They have Zach Wheeler. They have a roster built to win championships right now. And that matters to players who are in their prime and want to compete for titles. That winning pedigree, combined with the Phillies' well-documented willingness to spend aggressively when they identify their targets makes Philadelphia a legitimate frontrunner in these negotiations if, and this is a big if, the money is right. So let me be crystal clear about where we stand right now. The narrative flooding social media that Bo Bichette is already signed and sealed as a Philadelphia Philly is categorically false. Anyone pushing that story is either jumping the gun for attention or working with bad information. However, the narrative that the Phillies are legitimate front runners and that this deal has real momentum if the financial terms can be worked out, that narrative is absolutely 100% real. This isn't wishful thinking or fan fiction. This is serious baseball business happening at the highest levels of the organization. Now let's talk about why this matters so much beyond just adding another name to the roster. Bo Bichette is a perennial hit king contender. We're talking about a guy who consistently puts the bat on the ball, who rarely strikes out compared to league averages, and who brings exactly the type of contact-oriented skill set that the Phillies desperately lacked in crucial playoff moments. Think back to those painful at-bats in October where guys were chasing breaking balls in the dirt or looking completely overmatched against elite pitching. Bichette is the antidote to that disease. He's the guy who makes pitchers work, who battles in every at-bat, and who consistently finds ways to get on base even when he's not hitting for power. Before we dive deeper into the strategic implications of what adding Bichette would mean for the roster construction and payroll, I need you to do something for me right now. If you want to be the absolute first person to know when these rumors transform into reality, when the news breaks that the contract is actually signed, you need to smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell immediately. Phillies Fan Central brings you the truth faster, more accurately, and with more insider access than anyone else covering this team. Don't get your Phillies news from random Twitter accounts or outdated blog posts. Get it here, get it first, and get it right. Let's break down the strategic implications of potentially adding Bo Bichette to this roster and what it means for the Phillies championship window, because if this deal crosses the finish line, we are looking at a seismic shift in multiple dimensions of how this team operates. First and foremost, we're talking about the tactical fit on the field. Bo Bichette at second base alongside Turner at shortstop creates, and I'm not using hyperbole here, one of the most offensively gifted middle infields in recent Major League Baseball history. You would have two players with elite contact tools, plus speed on the base paths, and the ability to create havoc for opposing defenses. The combination of Turner and Bichette up the middle would give the Phillies a dynamic that very few teams in baseball could match. However, and this is where things get uncomfortable for some fans, this potential addition creates an immediate and unavoidable question regarding the future of Bryson Stott. If Bichette takes over second base, what happens to Stott, who has been a solid, reliable piece of this roster and a homegrown talent that the organization has invested in developing? Does Bryson Stott suddenly become a premium trade chip that Dave Dombrowski could package to acquire a rotation ace or an elite closer? Is that the next domino to fall once Bichette puts on the red pinstripes? Or is Dombrowski engineering something even more creative, like a super utility infield rotation that keeps everyone fresh throughout the grueling 162-game season, maximizing rest while maintaining an embarrassment of offensive riches? These are the questions that keep front office executives up at night, and they're the questions that will define the next phase of this roster construction. From a financial perspective, we need to talk about what this means for the Phillies' payroll situation, because signing Bo Bichette isn't just about adding talent. It's a statement about ownership's commitment to winning. John Middleton, the Phillies' principal owner, has never been shy about opening his checkbook when he believes it will lead to championships. The so-called stupid money era, where Middleton famously said the Phillies would spend money in ways that might seem stupid to others if it meant winning a World Series, is clearly not over. Signing Bichette would push the Phillies deep into luxury tax territory, potentially triggering escalating penalties that compound year over year. But here's what that financial commitment signals to the rest of the league and to the fan base. The window is right now. There is no waiting, no retooling, no patient development process. It is championship or bust for the 2026 season and beyond. This aggressive approach actually fits perfectly with broader league trends we're seeing across Major League Baseball. Modern front offices increasingly favor teams that accumulate elite shortstop talent and then strategically move those players around the diamond to optimize both offense and defense. Look at what the Los Angeles Dodgers have done successfully with their infield flexibility. Look at how the San Diego Padres have stacked talent without worrying about traditional position designations. The Phillies potentially adding Bichette and moving him to second base fits perfectly into that modern super team construction model. It's not about fitting players into rigid position boxes. It's about accumulating the best talent available and figuring out how to make it work on the field. From a performance analytics standpoint, there's actually an argument to be made that moving Bichette to second base could benefit everyone involved. Bichette has experienced defensive fluctuations at shortstop during his time in Toronto. His range metrics have been inconsistent, and while he's made improvements, there have been questions about whether shortstop is truly his optimal position long term. Moving to second base, which typically requires less range and puts less defensive pressure on the player, could actually mask some of those defensive concerns and allow Bichette to focus entirely on what he does best, which is hitting the baseball. His offensive production is his elite carrying tool, and if shifting positions allows him to concentrate on that without the mental burden of handling the most demanding defensive position on the infield, that's a win for everyone. Now let me paint you a picture that should make every Phillies fan's heart race. Imagine a lineup card that starts with Kyle Schwarber leading off, followed by Turner, then Bryce Harper, and then Bo Bichette hitting cleanup. Take a moment and visualize that murderer's row coming to the plate in succession. That's a nightmare scenario for opposing pitching coaches. That's the kind of lineup that forces managers to burn through their bullpen by the fifth inning because their starter is getting absolutely shellacked. That's the kind of offensive firepower that can overcome a bad start from your own pitcher or erase a deficit in one swing. That's championship caliber lineup construction, and it's exactly what the Phillies are trying to build. But we have to be realistic about the risks involved here because there are legitimate concerns that go beyond just the price tag. Bo Bichette is coming off a 2025 season where he had to prove his health after dealing with some injury concerns. Any long-term, high-average annual value contract requires absolute medical certainty. The Phillies doctors will need to be completely confident that Bichette's body can hold up under the rigors of playing 150-plus games per season over the life of the contract. One bad medical report could sink this entire deal faster than you can say Tommy John surgery. There's also the clubhouse chemistry consideration that can't be ignored. Bryson Stott is a homegrown talent, a guy who came up through the Phillies system and has been a solid contributor. Potentially displacing him, even if it's for someone as talented as Bichette, is a gamble from a team chemistry standpoint. Clubhouse dynamics matter in baseball, maybe more than any other sport. You're with these guys every single day for 8 months. If there's resentment or disruption because of how roster moves are handled, it can poison an entire season. That's not to say the Phillies shouldn't make the move, but it's a factor that has to be carefully managed. My analysis after considering all these factors is absolutely clear. If the Philadelphia Phillies close this deal and bring Bo Bichette to town, it is an unambiguous declaration of war on the National League. It's Dave Dombrowski standing on the table and announcing to the Dodgers, the Braves, the Mets, and everyone else that the Phillies are not here to compete. They're here to dominate. This is classic aggressive Dombrowski roster construction, prioritizing proven star power over depth pieces or prospect development. It's the same philosophy that led to acquiring Bryce Harper, that led to trading for players who could help win now rather than hoarding prospects for some theoretical future window. We are playing high-stakes poker right now with the New York Yankees and the Cleveland Guardians, and every card that gets turned over could define the trajectory of this franchise for the next decade. If the Phillies land Bichette, they instantly become one of the most fearsome offensive teams in baseball. If they lose out to the Yankees and watch Bichette terrorize them from the Bronx, there will be serious questions about whether the front office did enough to capitalize on this championship window while it's open. While here's the bottom line that every Phillies fan needs to understand. We are living in a pivotal moment for this franchise. The core of Harper, Turner, Wheeler, and the supporting cast is in their prime right now. These windows don't stay open forever. In 2 or 3 years, contracts expire, players age, and the competitive landscape shifts. The time to go all in is now, and signing Bo Bichette would be the ultimate signal that ownership and the front office understand that reality. This isn't about building for 2028 or 2030. This is about maximizing the chance to win championships in 2026 and 2027 while the core is still in their peak years. The financial implications are substantial, no question about it. We're talking about potentially committing 9 figures to a player with some defensive questions and recent injury concerns. The luxury tax penalties will add up. The flexibility to make additional moves could be constrained, but here's the counter argument that John Middleton and Dave Dombrowski clearly believe. What good is financial flexibility if you never actually use it to acquire championship caliber talent? What's the point of staying under luxury tax thresholds if it means watching other teams hoist World Series trophies while you pat yourself on the back for fiscal responsibility? So here's the question I'm putting directly to you, Phillies Nation, and I want you to really think about this before you sound off in the comments. Do you believe that signing Bo Bichette and moving him to second base is worth the financial risk and the potential loss or displacement of Bryson Stott? Or should the Phillies be spending that money on pitching depth, maybe pursuing another starting pitcher or a shutdown closer to bolster the bullpen? This is a legitimate strategic debate with compelling arguments on both sides. You could make a very reasonable case that in modern playoff baseball, elite pitching beats elite hitting more often than not. You could also make an equally compelling case that you can never have too much offense, and that adding a talent like Bichette to an already strong lineup creates a margin for error that covers up other weaknesses. I genuinely want to hear your strategy. What would you do if you were sitting in Dave Dombrowski's chair right now? Would you pull the trigger on Bichette and deal with the roster consequences? Would you pivot to pitching and use that money to fortify the rotation? Would you try to do something creative that addresses both needs? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's have a real conversation about the strategic direction of this franchise, because you, the fans, are the ones who will live with these decisions for years to come. And listen, I know there are probably other channels out there that are going to keep pumping out content saying the deal is done or manufacturing drama for clicks. That's not what we do here at Phillies Fan Central. When Bo Bichette actually signs with the Phillies, if he signs with the Phillies, you will get the full breakdown the absolute second the news breaks. You'll get the contract details, the strategic analysis, the immediate roster implications, and what it means for the upcoming season. But I'm not going to lie to you and tell you something is done when it's not. I'm not going to sacrifice credibility for engagement metrics. That's the promise I make to everyone watching this channel. The next few days and weeks are going to be absolutely critical. Negotiations are ongoing. Multiple teams are involved, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Every day that passes without a deal increases the chance that another team swoops in with an offer that changes everything. The Yankees have unlimited resources and a desperate need for exactly what Bichette brings. The Guardians are hungry and have built a competitive roster that's one piece away. The Phillies need to strike while the iron is hot, and if they truly believe that Bichette is the missing piece, they need to get aggressive and close this deal before someone else does. But no matter what happens, whether Bichette ends up in Philadelphia, New York, Cleveland, or somewhere else entirely, the story of this offseason has already told us something important about where the Phillies are as a franchise. They're not content to stand pat. They're not satisfied with being good enough to make the playoffs and hope for the best. They're actively hunting for ways to get better, to add impact talent, and to maximize this championship window. That mentality, that aggressive pursuit of excellence, is exactly what fans should want from their front office. The Bo Bichette saga is far from over, and you can bet that Phillies Fan Central will be here covering every single development as it happens. We're going to track this story until there's a signature on a contract or until Bichette signs somewhere else. We're going to bring you the insider perspective, the strategic analysis, and the truth, even when the truth is uncomfortable or not what fans want to hear. So don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single update. Drop your thoughts in the comments about whether the Phillies should go all in on Bichette or take a different approach. Share this video with other Phillies fans who need to know what's really happening and not just the rumor mill nonsense that's floating around on social media. This is the kind of moment that defines franchises. The decisions made over the next few weeks will echo through the organization for years to come. Will the Phillies land Bo Bichette and create one of the most fearsome lineups in baseball? Will they lose out to a competitor and watch that talent terrorize them from another uniform? Or will they pivot to a completely different strategy that nobody sees coming? Whatever happens, Phillies Nation, we're going to be here together, analyzing every move, celebrating every win, and holding the front office accountable every step of the way. The baseball world is watching Philadelphia right now. The pressure is on Dave Dombrowski to deliver. The expectations from the fan base are sky high, and rightfully so, given the investment and the talent already on this roster. This is what championship windows look like. This is what it feels like when your team is in the hunt for elite free agents and making serious runs at the biggest names available. Embrace it, enjoy the ride, and let's see if the Phillies can close the deal. Go Phillies.